The deep black of space stretched endlessly in all directions. In that quiet darkness, a massive ship moved forward, its armored hull reflecting faint light from a distant sun. The Dreadnought Resolute was the pride of the United Earth's fleet. It was longer than the tallest buildings on Earth, stacked together with weapons that could tear apart entire fleets if needed. Yet its mission today was not to fight. It was to meet a new species for the very first time. Captain Laura Briggs stood on the command deck, her eyes fixed on the holographic star chart in front of her. She was calm, even though she knew this mission could decide the future relationship between humanity and the Valeri. Her crew trusted her completely. She had led them through dangerous encounters before, but this time the danger was different. It was not an enemy fleet in battle, it was the unknown reaction of a people who had never met humans before. The Valeri were warriors by nature, according to the reports. They respected strength but distrusted outsiders. Their culture valued honor above all else, and their history was filled with wars over insults and misunderstandings. For that reason, the fleet command had chosen the Resolute for this mission. The ship's size and strength were meant to show that humanity was not weak, but Captain Briggs understood that such power could easily be seen as a threat. Distance to Valeri border. She asked, her voice steady. 2 million kilometers. Captain, replied Navigator Chris Holden. We will cross into their territory in 18 minutes. Briggs gave a small nod. Maintain our current speed. No weapon systems online. Keep shields at standby only. She wanted the Valeri to see that they were strong, but not aggressive. She knew every small action could change how the Valeri judged them. In the communication section, Commander Ethan Cole was already preparing the first message. He was tall, with a calm way of speaking that had helped in many tense situations before. His job was to make sure the Valeri understood the peaceful purpose of their visit. Still, he could not ignore the fact that the Resolute's arrival might look like the start of an invasion. Cole looked over at the captain. The greeting message is ready. We'll send it the moment we cross the border. Good, Briggs replied. Make sure our language is clear. No idioms, no confusing phrases. We can't afford misunderstandings. As they approached the border, the crew could feel the tension growing. The starfield ahead shimmered slightly on the sensors. Valeri ships were already there, waiting. Multiple contacts, Captain, said Tactical Officer Daniel Brooks. They're holding position just inside their territory. 20 ships, maybe more. They're scanning us. Briggs stepped closer to the main display. The Valeri ships were sleek and curved, with sharp edges that made them look like predators from old Earth's oceans. They were smaller than the Resolute, but their weapons were active. They're nervous. Brooks said quietly. They're careful, Briggs corrected. We would do the same in their place. Ethan Cole pressed the transmit key. Please. Is the United Earth ship Resolute? We come in peace, seeking to open talks with the Valeri people. We bring no harm. We request safe passage to your designated meeting place. His voice was calm and clear. Each word carefully chosen. The bridge was silent as they waited for a reply. A few moments later, the speakers crackled with an alien voice. It was deep, almost growling. Humans, your vessel is large. Too large. For peaceful talks. Why do you come with such a ship? Briggs exchanged a quick glance with Cole. She answered herself, speaking into the comm. Resolute is our long-range exploration and defense ship. It travels far from home. Its strength is for protection, not attack. We wish only to meet and speak. There was another pause, longer this time. The Valeri voice returned. We will allow you to pass. Do not change your course. Any sign of weapon use, and we will respond. The message ended, and the Valeri ships began to move aside, though their weapons still tracked the Resolute. Maintain speed, Briggs ordered. She looked at her crew. Remember? They're watching everything we do. As the Dreadnought passed into Valeri space, the stars around them seemed sharper, brighter. But the tension remained heavy. In the quiet hum of the engines, each crew member knew they were part of something historic, far ahead. On a small asteroid station, the first meeting between humans and Valeri would soon take place. But for now, the Resolute moved forward through the dark, carrying both hope and the shadow of possible conflict. The Resolute continued its steady path through Valeri space. The crew moved with quiet discipline, each person focused on their tasks. Outside the thick hull, the alien stars glowed faintly, while Valeri escort ships kept their distance but never left the Dreadnought sensors. They followed like shadows. Every movement calculated. On the bridge, Commander Ethan Cole leaned over his console. The Valeri were transmitting short bursts of data, but the meaning was not fully clear. He had the translator systems working at full capacity, yet the structure of the Valeri language made it easy for meaning to shift depending on tone and timing. "They're not just talking to us," Cole said to Captain Briggs. "They're sending coded messages between their own ships, likely about our presence, but we can't be sure if they're debating or preparing something." Briggs stood with her arms crossed, watching the shifting icons of the alien ships on the holographic display. "We have to assume every one of them is reporting to a higher authority. Every move we make is probably being reviewed by their leadership." The communications team sent a second message, this time more detailed. It explained humanity's goals, the peaceful nature of the mission, and a request for safe cooperation. Cole read every word twice before approving the transmission. There could be no room for mistakes. Minutes passed. The Valeri's reply came in fragments. The translation suggested they had agreed to a meeting, but also carried a warning about overt displays of force. Briggs considered the words. "They mean our ship," she said. "The size alone makes them uneasy." "It's like walking into someone's house wearing body armor," Cole replied. "Even if you're friendly, it still feels like a threat." In the observation deck below the bridge, some of the junior crew gathered to watch the Valeri escorts through reinforced glass. The alien ships glided smoothly, their dark hulls reflecting the nearby starlight. They had strange wing-like structures that shifted slightly as they moved, almost like the fins of a fish steering through water. The crew whispered quietly among themselves, impressed and wary at the same time. Chief Engineer Maria Davis was in the engine room, making sure the Resolute systems were running perfectly. She had reduced the ship's energy output slightly to make the Dreadnought appear less aggressive. "They're watching our energy signatures, they'll see. We're not charging weapons," she told her team. "No sudden spikes, no accidental power surges. Everything runs steady and quiet." Back on the bridge, the tension deepened. The Valeri sent another signal, this time a direct set of coordinates. Cole confirmed it was the meeting location. "Asteroid station in a neutral zone between Valeri colonies. They're giving us the path we have to take," Cole said. "They're making sure we don't go anywhere else." Briggs nodded. "Plot the course exactly as given. We'll follow their route to the letter. No detours." The Resolute adjusted its heading. The escort ships spread out, taking positions along the path ahead and behind. It was clear the Valeri were making sure the humans couldn't surprise them. Hours passed as the Dreadnought moved deeper into alien territory. There were no planets in sight, only drifting asteroids and the cold emptiness between stars. The silence was broken only by short status reports from the crew. Suddenly, a new transmission came in from the Valeri flagship. It was sharper in tone, the growling voice faster and more clipped. The translation read, "Your vessel's armor is excessive for diplomacy." "Explain." Cole and Briggs exchanged a look. "They keep coming back to our size and strength," Cole said. "It's the one thing they can't ignore." Briggs responded over the comms. Resolute's armor protects the crew from hazards of deep space travel. It is not for use against the Valeri. We value the safety of our people as you value yours. There was a long pause. The reply was short. We will see. The bridge fell into silence again. The Valeri were not convinced, but they had not ordered. The humans, too, turned back. That was enough for now. In the crew quarters, people spoke quietly about the coming meeting. Some were curious about the Valeri's appearance and customs. Others worried that a single mistake could lead to disaster. The uncertainty pressed on everyone, from the newest technician to the captain herself. As the asteroid station finally appeared on sensors, the crew's mood shifted. The station was large, with rotating sections for artificial gravity. Bright docking lights glowed against the darkness, but around it, Valeri defense platforms bristled with weapons. They were not taking any chances. Cole studied the incoming data. They've got enough firepower here to destroy us if they wanted. 2, he said softly. Briggs kept her eyes on the station. Then we'll give them no reason to want to. The Resolute slowed as it neared the meeting point. The Valeri escorts closed in, guiding them toward a holding position just outside the station's main docking ring. The first signals had been exchanged. The next step would be face-to-face. Asterisk. The asteroid station floated in the dark, its metallic surface lit by rows of bright lights. The rotation of its central ring gave it a slow, steady motion, like a giant wheel turning in the void. From a distance, it seemed calm and silent, but the Resolute sensors showed a different picture. The station was surrounded by dozens of small defense satellites, each armed and tracking every movement of the Dreadnought. On the bridge, Captain Laura Briggs studied the image. She could see the docking arms that reached out from the station, but she knew the Valeri had no intention of letting the Resolute dock directly. The ship was too large, too powerful, and too unknown. Instead, the meeting would take place in a secure chamber deep inside the station, far from any sensitive areas. They've given us clearance to send a shuttle, Commander Ethan Cole reported. They've approved a team of 5. No weapons, no powered armor. They want our equipment. Scanned before entering. Briggs nodded. Prepare the shuttle. I'll lead the delegation. Cole, you're with me. Chief Engineer Davis, you'll come too. I want you to observe any technology they're willing to show us. Lieutenant Harper and Dr. Mason will round out the team. Cole glanced toward her. You think they'll let us see much? Probably not, Briggs admitted. But even small details can tell us a lot about how they think. The shuttle was prepared quickly. Its sleek frame carried the Earthfleet insignia in clear view. Inside, the seats were narrow, built for function rather than comfort. The small crew entered, each carrying only a basic translator unit and a small data tablet. The hatch closed, and the shuttle detached from the Resolute, drifting forward under controlled thrusters. From the observation deck of the Dreadnought, many crew members watched their leaders leave. The shuttle looked tiny compared to the size of the Resolute, like a small bird flying toward a massive nest guarded by predators. As the shuttle neared the station, Valeri escort craft formed a tight formation around it. Their ships were dark, their hulls carved with sharp lines that caught the light. They moved with smooth precision, guiding the human craft toward a docking bay on the lower side of the station. Inside the shuttle, Maria Davis studied the alien ships. Their engine design is interesting, she said quietly. Compact, but I bet they can turn fast. They're built for quick strikes, not long voyages. Ethan Cole was focused on the incoming come signals. They're telling us exactly how to land, no deviation from their approach vector. When the shuttle touched down inside the bay, the humans got their first close view of Valeri soldiers. They stood in 2 rows, armored glinting under bright white lights. Their tall forms and broad shoulders made them seem larger than life. Their helmets covered their faces, but their posture was rigid. Disciplined, the humans stepped out slowly, keeping their hands visible. A Valeri officer, taller than the rest, approached and spoke in a deep voice. "Follow. Do not wander." The group was led through a series of corridors. The walls were made of dark metal, and faint lights traced along the floor, showing the path forward. Every few steps, another armed guard stood watching. The humans could feel eyes on them at all times. Eventually, they reached a circular chamber. A table stood in the center, surrounded by seats shaped for Valeri frames. The humans were given smaller seats brought in for the occasion. Briggs took her place, keeping her back straight. Across from her, 3 Valeri representatives entered. They removed their helmets, revealing faces with strong features, ridged along the brow and cheeks. Their eyes were sharp, glowing faintly in the dim light. One of them, wearing a dark crimson cloak over his armor, spoke first. "I am Commander Varric. You are in Valeri space, human captain. We welcome you to speak." Briggs inclined her head slightly. "I am Captain Laura Briggs of the United Earth ship Resolute. We come to build understanding between our peoples." Varric's gaze shifted. "Your ship is unlike any we have seen. It is large enough to fight entire fleets. Why bring such a thing into our home?" Briggs kept her tone calm. "It is a ship built for long journeys and for defense. It carries the means to protect its crew in dangerous places. We did not come here to fight, but to show that we are not weak." Another Valeri leaned forward. "Strength is understood, but strength shown too soon can be taken as a challenge." Cole spoke carefully. "That is not our intent. We want open talks, trade, and peaceful contact. We will listen to your concerns." The meeting continued for some time, with careful words exchanged. But Briggs could sense that the Valeri were not fully convinced. Their questions always returned to the same subject: the size, the weapons, and the possible threat of the Resolute as the humans were led back toward the shuttle. After the meeting, Cole leaned toward Briggs. "They're looking for any sign that we might be lying. Think they're testing us." Briggs kept her eyes forward. "Then we make sure they find none. But be ready, first meetings are never the end of the story." Behind them, in the chamber, they had just left, the Valeri representatives spoke in low voices. Their words were not translated, but the tone was heavy. The humans had taken their first step into Valeri space, but the ground they stood on was far from stable. The Resolute remained in a holding position near the asteroid station, surrounded by Valeri ships that never drifted far. On board, the crew waited for news from the captain's shuttle. When Captain Briggs and her team returned, there were quiet nods but no celebration. The first meeting had been polite, but not warm, in the captain's ready room. Briggs, Cole, and Maria Davis went over the conversation with the Valeri. The same concern had repeated again and again: why had humans brought such a massive warship? No matter how clearly they explained it, the Valeri seemed unable to see the Resolute as anything other than a weapon meant for dominance. "They don't believe us," Cole said, leaning against the table. "Even if they think we're not hostile right now, they still believe we could turn on them at any moment." "They're not wrong," Maria replied. "We could do serious damage if it came to it. They probably measure every visitor by weather. They can match their own strength." Briggs sighed quietly. "Which means we have to be even more careful with our words." The Valeri sent another message, asking for a second meeting to go into more detail about possible trade and cooperation. Briggs agreed at once. She saw it as a chance to shift their opinion. A day later, the shuttle approached the station again. The same security checks were done, and the humans were led into a different chamber. This one was smaller, with a curved table and walls lined with screens that displayed shifting images, maps, resource charts, and what looked like fleet movements. The talks began with formal greetings. The Valeri asked about human travel routes, mining operations, and shipbuilding capabilities. Briggs answered each question honestly, but carefully, leaving out anything that could be seen as overly aggressive. Then came the moment that changed everything. One of the Valeri, an older representative named Koresh, asked how long the Resolute could remain in space without needing resupply. Briggs explained that it was built to operate independently for many years, if necessary. She said it can endure longer than most vessels, even if surrounded by unfriendly forces. The translator rendered her words in the Valeri language, but a subtle shift in meaning turned endure into outlast. In Valeri culture, outlast carried a connotation of siege warfare, tactic used only by enemies who planned to break their opponents over time. Koresh's eyes narrowed. "You speak as one who prepares for siege," he said. Briggs did not understand the sudden change in tone. "I speak as one who prepares for safety," she replied. But the mistranslation had already done its damage. The Valeri representatives exchanged glances, their body language tightening. Cole noticed the change and quickly tapped the translators. "Consul," but by the time the correction was found, the mood had shifted. Another representative, younger and more aggressive, leaned forward. "So the human ship waits outside a world, ready to strike when the enemy is weak. This is your method." "That is not what I said," Briggs answered firmly. "You are misunderstanding our words." "Are we?" the younger Valeri replied. "Perhaps your meaning is hidden." The rest of the meeting was tense and short. Formalities were kept, but the sharpness in the Valeri voices was impossible to miss. When the humans left the chamber, the guard stares were harder, and the air seemed colder. Back on the shuttle, Cole finally spoke. "That was bad. They think we were hinting at military strategy." Briggs looked out the viewport at the distant shape of the Resolute. A single word. That's all it takes to turn suspicion into something worse. When they returned to the Dreadnought, the crew could sense the shift in atmosphere. The Valeri ships outside had changed formation. Instead of a loose escort, they now formed a tighter ring, their weapons angled more openly toward the Resolute. In the tactical room, Brooks reported, "We're seeing increased power readings from their weapon systems. They haven't locked on yet, but they're ready if things go wrong." Briggs ordered the ship to maintain its current posture shields at standby weapons offline. She knew that showing any sign of arming up would confirm the Valari's fears. That night, or what counted as night in space, the Valeri sent a short, cold message. "Your words carry weight, human captain. Choose them with care." The crew went about their duties quietly, each aware that their mission was hanging by a thread. The Valeri had invited them to talk, but trust had not grown, had cracked. One wrong move now could push the two species from uneasy diplomacy into open hostility. As Captain Briggs stood by the forward viewport, she thought about the long history of first contacts in humanity's past. Some had gone well, others had ended in blood. She had hoped this one would be different. Now, she was no longer sure. The next morning cycle aboard the Resolute began quietly, but the mood was heavy. Everyone felt the weight of the last meeting. The Valeri had not sent any friendly messages since the mistranslation. Instead, there had been silence, except for short, formal instructions that gave no sense of trust or welcome. Captain Briggs stood on the bridge, looking at the tactical display. The Valeri ships still surrounded them, closer than before, their movements sharp and coordinated. She could almost feel their eyes on the Resolute, watching for the smallest sign of aggression. Commander Cole stepped up beside her. "We've just received an urgent call from the station. They want another meeting. This one is marked as final." "Final," Briggs repeated, her voice low. "That doesn't sound promising." They've also limited the team to 3 people. This time, Cole added, "You, me, and one advisor. Briggs chose Maria Davis for the third seat. If this was going to end badly, she wanted her best engineer there to observe and record whatever happened. The shuttle was readied, and the three of them set off toward the station. The docking process was the same as before: tight escort, scanning at the bay, and the same long walk through guarded corridors. But the guards' stances were different now. They no longer looked merely cautious. They looked ready for violence. Inside the meeting room, the atmosphere was even colder. Commander Varek was present again, but there were more representatives. This time, including Koresh, the older one, and the younger, aggressive one from the last meeting. The humans took their seats in silence. Varek began without pleasantries. "Captain Briggs, the Valeri Council has considered your presence. We find your explanations unsatisfactory." Briggs met his gaze. "We have told you the truth. The Resolute is here for peaceful contact. We carry no intent to harm you." Koresh's voice was firm, but not loud. "Intent can change. Ships as large as yours do not simply appear in foreign space without a reason. Your words say peace, but your actions show strength meant to intimidate." "That is not true," Briggs replied. "We showed strength only so you would know we are not vulnerable to threats. That is different from seeking conflict." The younger Valari slammed a hand on the table. "You speak of not being vulnerable, yet you arrive with a vessel capable of destroying worlds. This is not the way of allies, it is the way of conquerors." Cole leaned forward, trying to calm the exchange. "You are judging us by the size of our ship, and not by our actions. The Resolute has done nothing aggressive since entering your space. We have followed your routes, obeyed your orders, and respected your laws." The younger Valari's voice grew sharper. "For now, but what of tomorrow?" The talks began to spiral. The Valeri demanded that the Resolute withdraw immediately, stating that continued presence would be seen as a direct threat. Briggs offered to move the ship to a more distant holding position instead, so they could continue discussions without appearing so close to Valeri colonies. Her suggestion was rejected. Varek's final words were clear. "Leave our space now. If you do not, we will force you to." There was no room left for negotiation. The humans stood, escorted back to the shuttle by guards whose hands rested near their weapons. No one spoke during the return flight to the Resolute. When they docked, Briggs went straight to the bridge. The moment she stepped inside, Tactical Officer Brooks reported, "Captain, the Valeri fleets are moving. Multiple ships are taking up attack positions. Weapon systems are online across their formation." Cole looked at the tactical display. "They're not bluffing." Briggs gave her orders quickly. "Bring shields to standby. Do not arm the weapons yet. Elm, hold position. We will not fire unless fired upon." The crew moved with tense precision, hands hovering over controls, eyes fixed on their stations. The view outside the forward viewport was filled with Valeri ships, their hulls gleaming in the distant light, their weapon pods glowing faintly. The comms console lit up with an incoming transmission. It was Varek's voice, sharp and final. "You have until our timer reaches 0. Leave now or be destroyed." A countdown appeared on the display minutes. The bridge was silent, except for the low hum of the ship's systems. Everyone could feel the weight of the moment. A single mistake, a single wrong move, and the first meeting between humans and Valeri would end not with peace, but with battle. Briggs stood in the center of the bridge, her eyes locked on the countdown. "We're not leaving," she said quietly, more to herself than anyone else. "Not until they understand we won't be pushed away so easily." The countdown on the main screen ticked away. Every second louder in the crew's minds than the hum of the Resolute's engines. Outside, the Valeri fleet held its tight formation, weapons aimed and ready. No one on the bridge moved unnecessarily. Every word spoken was short and quiet. as if louder voices might somehow trigger an attack. Captain Briggs stood in the center, her hands clasped behind her back. She kept her breathing steady, though her heart beat faster than she cared to admit. She had faced tense moments before, but this one was different. This was not a single enemy ship or a small skirmish. This was the military power of an entire species, standing between humanity and the chance for peace. Timer at 6 minutes. Commander Cole said softly from the communications console. His fingers hovered over the controls, ready to send another message if the captain ordered it. They haven't fired yet. Tactical Officer Brooks reported, eyes on his display. Weapons are powered, but their targeting locks are not engaged. That means they're still deciding. Briggs nodded. Which means we still have a chance. She turned to Cole. Send this message to Commander Varric for word. We will not leave under threat. We are here to talk, not to fight. We will remain in position until peaceful terms are possible. Keep it calm, no challenge in your tone. Cole sent the message, his voice slow and steady, making sure no word could be misinterpreted. The response came almost at once. Varric's voice was low and controlled, but there was steel in it. Your presence is a challenge, whether you intend it or not. You have 5 minutes to leave. On the engineering deck, Maria Davis worked with her team to strengthen the Resolute's defensive grid. Power was being diverted to the shields, but carefully too much of an energy spike might make the Valeri think the humans were preparing. To fire, keep it balanced, she told her crew. We need full protection, but it has to look like we're just holding position. Asterisk in the observation deck, several junior crew members stared out at the fleet surrounding them. The Valeri ships looked like predators circling prey, their wing-like fins shifting slightly as they adjusted their positions. The space between the ships felt small, as if the Resolute was trapped in a cage made of metal and light. On the bridge, Brooks spoke again. Captain, they're moving some of their smaller craft to the station. Looks like they're bringing in reinforcements. Let them, Briggs replied. We're not the ones who will start this fight. The timer dropped to 4 minutes. Every sound on the bridge felt sharp quiet clicks of controls. The faint hum of the air filters, the soft buzz of the displays. Cole glanced at the captain. They want us gone because they think our presence is a sign of dominance. But if we leave now, they'll believe we came here only to intimidate them and ran when they stood firm. That will kill any chance at future talks. That's why we stay, Briggs said simply. 2 minutes left. The Valeri ships began to shift, tightening the circle around the Resolute. Their weapon pods glowed brighter now, feeding more energy into their systems. Brooks reported quietly, Captain, we are within full firing range of at least 12 capital weapons. If they fire, we'll take heavy damage even with shields at maximum. 1 minute, 30 seconds, Cole announced. Briggs walked to the forward viewport. The stars were bright and cold beyond the Valeri ships. She spoke in a calm voice that carried across the bridge. We will not be the ones to start a war. If they fire, we defend ourselves. Until then, we stand. At 1 minute, the Valeri sent a final transmission. Varric's voice was harder now. You defy the will of the Valeri Council. When the timer ends, we will act. The last seconds ticked away. 10, 9, 8. No one moved. Hands tightened on controls. Eyes stayed locked on displays. At 0, nothing happened. The timer disappeared from the main screen. For a long moment, the bridge was silent except for the steady hum of the ship. Then Brooks spoke in a low voice. They're holding. They didn't fire. Cole exhaled slowly. They wanted to see if we would flinch. We didn't. Nodded, but kept her gaze on the surrounding ships. They're still watching. This isn't over. The Valeri fleet did not pull back, but neither did they attack. It was a stalemate, both sides armed, both sides wary, neither willing to make the first deadly move. In the vast arc of space, the two forces faced each other, locked in a dangerous balance where one wrong action could ignite the first war between their peoples. Asterisk, the standoff had stretched into hours. The Resolute and the Valeri fleet floated in the black space between the stars, neither side moving, neither side firing. The tension pressed down on every crew member, heavier than any weight they had ever felt. Each second felt longer than the last dot. Captain Briggs stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the largest Valeri warship. Sleek silver hull reflected. The faint light of a nearby star and the faint blue glow of its engines made it look like a blade ready to strike. She knew that one wrong action from her ship could trigger a battle that would kill thousands in minutes. She also knew something. Else this silent waiting could not go on forever. Sooner or later, someone would make a move. And if it was the Valeri, that move would likely mean destruction for her crew. "We can't just float here until they decide to destroy us," Briggs said quietly. "We need to change the shape of the game." Commander Cole looked at her sharply. "You're thinking of taking action?" "Captain, anything we do could be seen as aggression." "Not if we choose our action carefully," she replied. She walked over to the communications console. "Get me a direct channel to Varek's ship." Cole hesitated. "Open channel, aye." A moment later, the screen lit up with the stern, narrow face of Commander Varek. His deep eyes were unreadable. But there was a flicker of curiosity there. "Captain." "Briggs," he said slowly, "you have refused to leave. Why do you call now? Have you reconsidered your position?" "No," she answered, her tone calm but firm. "I have decided to come to you instead." The bridge crew froze. Cole looked at her like she had lost her mind. Brooks whispered under his breath, "She's not serious." Varek's expression tightened. "You will not be allowed aboard our vessel." "I don't intend to come as a threat," Briggs said. "I intend to come alone, unarmed. You have doubts about our intentions. Let me stand in front of you, with no weapons, no guards, and prove that we came for peace." The silence that followed felt endless. Even the hum of the Resolute systems seemed to fade. Varek leaned closer to the screen, as if studying her face for signs of deception. "This is unusual," he said finally. "You would risk your life for this." "Yes," Briggs replied simply. On the bridge, Cole spoke in a low voice to her. "Captain, this is dangerous beyond reason. If they decide to kill you, we won't even have a chance to respond." "They won't kill me if they truly want peace," she said. "And if they do, then they never wanted peace to begin with. And we'll know exactly where we stand." Varek's voice returned, measured but cold. "Very well, come. But understand this: if you set foot on my ship with even the smallest sign of deceit, you will not leave alive." The channel closed. The crew erupted in quiet protest. Brooks shook his head. "This is madness." "You're walking into their stronghold." "I'm walking into their trust," Briggs corrected. "Cole, you have command until I return. Keep the ship on standby defensive posture only. If they fire while I'm aboard, you defend the crew at all costs." Minutes later, Briggs stood in the small shuttle bay. She wore a plain, dark uniform with no rank insignia, her sidearm left behind in her quarters. The small diplomatic shuttle waited for her, its hull polished and clean. Cole stood beside her, his jaw tight. "I think you're making the wrong call, but I also think you're the only one who could make it work." She gave a faint smile. "That's the idea." The shuttle lifted off from the Resolute, gliding through the cold, dark space toward the massive Valeri warship. The closer she got, the more its size struck her was like a floating city. Its surface covered with ridges, weapons, and shimmering energy fields. Valeri escorts flanked her shuttle, guiding her to a docking port. The clamps locked in with A deep metallic thud when the hatch opened. She was met by 3 tall Valeri guards in silver armor. They carried long curved weapons that glowed faintly, but they kept them at their sides. One of them gestured for her to follow. She walked through cold, silent corridors, her footsteps echoing softly on the metallic floor. The air smelled faintly of ozone, and strange lights pulsed in the walls like a heartbeat. Finally, she was led into a wide chamber with high ceilings. At the far end stood Commander Varric, his posture straight, his eyes sharp. "You came," he said, as though still unsure she truly would. "I said I would," she replied. He studied her in silence for a long moment. Then he gestured to a circular table in the center of the room. "Sit, speak your truth. But know your words here will decide whether your species walks away as allies or as ashes." Briggs met his gaze without fear and took her seat. Then, "Let's speak." The chamber was silent, except for the faint hum of the Valeri ship's systems. Captain Briggs sat across from Commander Varric, the silver walls around them reflecting the dim light. The table between them was smooth and cold. A simple circle without marks. It felt less like a meeting place and more like a place where judgments were made. Varric did not speak at first. He studied Briggs with the stillness of a man who could wait forever for his answer. His deep eyes seemed to search every detail of her face, as if looking for the smallest sign of weakness or deceit. "You could have stayed on your ship," Varric finally said. "You could have kept your distance, hidden behind your weapons, and waited for us to act. Yet you came here alone. Why? Because this is the moment that will decide what happens next," Briggs replied. "I came to look you in the eye, without a screen between us, and tell you that humanity is not here to destroy you. We are not here to take your worlds or your resources. We are here because we believe both our peoples could be stronger together than apart." Varric tilted his head slightly. "Words are wind. Any commander can speak them." "True," Briggs admitted. "But actions matter. I left my weapons behind. I stepped into your territory without any protection. If I wanted war, I would have brought every gun I had. If I wanted deception, I would have sent spies, not myself." There was a faint shift in Varric's expression, but his tone stayed cold. "Your ship, this Resolute, is a weapon in itself. It was built for destruction. How can we trust a people who arrive to speak of peace while hiding behind a monster of war?" Briggs leaned forward slightly. "Because that monster has teeth only to protect those who carry no sword. It exists so we can stand here as equals. Without it, we would have been ignored, or worse, destroyed before we could even speak. You understand strength, Commander. You know why the Resolute had to be here." The Valeri leader was quiet for a long time. His guards stood perfectly still, but their eyes moved between their commander and the human captain, waiting for the smallest sign to act. Finally, Varric rose from his seat and walked slowly around the table, his boots making soft, measured sounds on the floor. He stopped behind Briggs, as if testing whether she would turn her head. She didn't. "You are either brave," he said at last, "or foolish." "Sometimes they are the same thing," Briggs answered. He moved back to his place and sat again. "Your people's history is filled with conflict. Our records show that you have fought not only your enemies, but yourselves. Why should I believe that you would not turn that same violence toward us in time?" "Because we've learned from it," Briggs said, her voice steady. "Every war we've fought has taught us something. We've made mistakes, and we've paid for them. But every time, we've come back stronger and more determined to avoid repeating them. We are not perfect, Commander. But we try, and that is why I'm here. To try." Varric's gaze locked on hers for a long moment. Then he said quietly, "There are those among my people who believe you should be destroyed now before you grow too strong. They believe peace with you will be impossible. And what do you believe? Briggs asked. I believe. Varric began, then paused. I believe the choice we make today will echo for centuries. If I strike now, we may win the battle. But we will create an enemy who will never forget. If I accept your hand, we risk that one day you will close it into a fist. Briggs did not break eye contact. Both paths carry risk, but only one of them gives us a chance at something better. For the first time since she had met him, Varric's eyes softened slightly. He leaned back, considering her words. Then, he touched a small device on the table. Fleet, this is Varric. Stand down from attack posture. Maintain distance from the human ship. The voice of a Valeri officer crackled in response, sounding uncertain. Commander, are you certain? I am, Varric said. For now, we will speak, not fight. Briggs allowed herself the smallest breath of relief. It was not peace yet, but it was not war either. Varric looked back at her. You will remain. Aboard for further talks. If you are sincere, Captain, you will have the chance to prove it. I will, she promised. When the guards escorted her back to her shuttle, the corridors felt a little less cold than before. The silence was no. Longer threatening it was cautious, but open. She knew there would be many more talks, and that trust would take time. But the first step had been taken as the shuttle detached from the Valeri ship and drifted back toward the Resolute. She could see her crew watching from the bridge windows. They didn't know the details yet, but they would see from her expression that the mission was not lost. The Resolute still floated like a giant sentinel in the dark, its weapons quiet, its engines glowing faintly. It was still a monster in the eyes of many, but now it was a monster that had opened the door to something better, for the first time since the Valeri fleet had appeared. Briggs allowed herself a small, tired smile. This was not the end of the story. It was only the beginning. Asterisk,